Okay, so here in the final site, the Google site, when you hover over the input, looks like the border changes color. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to mimic the same sort of deal. We're going to add a border to the default one. I know there's one there, but we're going to specify it. Let's say, I believe something like CCC, solid 1 pixel CCC. There we go, and we lost a little bit of padding there. So let's, in fact, I believe it's the font size. That's too small. The font size in the main site, looks to be about 16 pixels in Helvetica. So we're going to go do that in here. Font size, 16 pixels, font family. I believe we're going for, well, no, let's stick to Arial. Maybe that would be fine. That looks exactly like it. Now we need to, on hover, do the same here, but use the pseudo class hover. And we're going to change that border color to something darker like AAA. And that should do it. It's very subtle, but it worked. Okay. Now let's just style these buttons to look a bit more like the default ones on the Google site here. So they're just kind of gray and they have some subtle borders, and let's try that. So input type submit, and we're going to say background, maybe something like CCC, color, let's go 777. I'm just guessing here. You know, you could inspect the element and find the exact color, so I'm just going to just do this. And I'm going to say border, solid 1 pixel, AAA. Let's see what we got so far. Okay, we need some more padding. The buttons need to be lighter, and we need to do a better job here. So this will be, let's go EEE. The color should be okay. The border should be, let's try 777 as well. And padding, 5 pixels. Let's just see. We're getting closer. Getting closer. The color of the text is darker for sure, and the border is not that dark. So let's go back to AAA for the border, and we need the color of the text will be darker. Let's go for 333, and font size, let's go for 14 pixels. Let's just see. That is getting closer. So font size is smaller. And the padding looks okay. I could use a lighter border even. So, let's go for DDD. Font size is 12. Font family, Arial, sans serif. And we need to bold those buttons. Font weight, bold, and I need to make that border darker yet again. CCC should do well. Okay, now we're getting much closer. That looks good enough to me. Actually, let's make the font size just a little smaller. Let's go for 11, 10. That'll do it. And let's make the margin 0 on the top and bottom and 10 on the left and right to give those a bit of space. We gave them some space, too much space, and the font size is too small. Okay, 11, and we'll just do 5 pixels on either side. That's better. Okay, I'm cool with those buttons. They're good for me. We can maybe add on the hover the cursor. Remember how to do that. So we use the hover pseudo class. And we'll say cursor, pointer, that'll give us the pointer. And now we're going to select that small element, and we're just going to say margin 10 pixels, 0, 0, 0. Let's see if that worked. And it didn't because the small is a block or inline element, so it doesn't have a margin on the top. So we're just going to change that to display block. which then basically makes the paragraph tag wrapping around it pointless. So let's remove it so we don't have extra markup that we don't need. Now let's see. There we go. Google offered in Francais, and the font size should be smaller. Should be a better size. Let's say font size. Let's go with 14 pixels. Too big, 12 pixels. And that looks good to me. Okay, what do we have now? We're getting closer. You can see it's actually coming into working quite well. The link colors need to just be kind of that blue-ish. Let's just change it to blue. Let's just go A, link, color, blue. Dodger blue, just for fun. And they won't show up because they were all visited, because there actually are no URLs in there. So let's add the A visited as the same. In fact, let's just use a grouping selector. That will fix it. There we go. And now we're going to start working on the header. Let's work on the header up here. So we just have some links up here. Okay. Now we have the nav. Sorry, not the header. We're going to say nav, and the ULLI we're selecting up here. And we're going to say all those list items are display inline. Let's see what happens. Well, now they're side by side. We can do it that way, or we can float them. But I prefer the inline option for now. And that means we need to text align right. Maybe we'll do that on the nav itself. We'll say text align is right. And you see it selected both of the navs, so we need to be more specific and give this the nav the ID of header, and nav the ID of header, nav the ID of header. There we go. That's us being more specific. And it didn't seem to work because we didn't save. There we go. So now we're getting closer. We just need to change the links of these to be gray and have more padding. So we'll say the nav header is going to have some padding of 20 pixels on all sides. And that will look like this. That's better. And the LIs, we're going to say they have some padding. No, we're going to do that to the link. We're going to say nav header ULLIA. Getting a bit more complicated of a selector here. And we're going to say color. Actually, we need to select the link. And I'm going to grouping selector that again and say visited. Color. We're going for like something a bit darker. 555. That looks about right. And when you hover, we're actually going to remove the text decoration underline. So text decoration none. But when you hover, it's going to have that underline. But we need to add some spacing between those. So we're just going to add some padding to these links. And we're going to say 10 pixels. Let's see what happens. That looks more clean. And when we hover over those, we need to be able to have that underline back. So we're going to copy paste that, change the pseudo class to hover, text decoration underline. There we go. That looks pretty good. It's actually getting quite close. Cool. Now we need to space that center part, the container, out better. We need to give it some top margin. So I'm going to scroll up here. I'm going to say margin on the top is 80 pixels and the margin on the bottom, just leave it with 0 for now. And we could probably bring it down even more. Let's go for 140 pixels. That's pretty darn close. Cool. Now we're going to work on that footer. So let's scroll down, and I'm going to select the footer. Give it the background of EEE. Padding of 20 pixels. And let's just check it out. Good enough. Now let's select the footer nav UL LI, and we're going to also make those display in line. So they all display on one line. Next thing I want to do is give the footer links the same style as the nav header links. And we'll just go ahead and use a grouping selector to do the same sort of deal. So we're going to say footer nav ULLIA link. And we'll copy that, put a comma, and then this will be visited. And let's just check it out. There we go. Now when you hover, I'm going to copy and paste the same thing here and hover. And that should give us the same styles. And I believe that's the same on the site here. Yep, looks about right. And the position of this footer needs to actually be fixed. And that should get us what we're looking for. So we'll just say footer position fixed and bottom 0. Now, I think a funny thing happens here. Yes, so it almost turns into like an inline element in a way. I'm not sure if it actually does, but it behaves like one where it doesn't span the full width. And all you really have to do here is just specify a width now. If you want it to be the full width, you just say width 100%, and that will give us that footer down at the bottom. The other thing that happens here is we have some link elements or links here and then links on the right side. And we're going to use some floats to do that. So let's jump back here, and we're going to actually create two different ULs here. So I'm going to close that UL here and open up another one. So now we should have two different lists. You can see that they stack on top of each other because they are block elements. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give this one the class of right links. And I'm going to select the footer nav UL and float left. And that will float both of them left, which should kind of get us where we're looking to go. So now they're side by side because they're floated, but we need to float the right one right. So footer nav UL with the class of right links, and then float right. Whoops. Float right. And now the links are over on the right. But it kind of looks like there's a bit of an issue with the text. It kind of pops over outside of the flow on the right side of the content. And I'm pretty sure that's because we have this element as 100%, but we have padding on the footer. And it kind of is messing things up because we have 20 pixels of padding on the left and right, and then 100% width, but we're adding 100% plus 40 pixels of width to the footer. So we need to adjust for that. And what we can do, instead of giving the footer padding, we can give it top and bottom padding, or we can give it no padding. And I think we'll do no padding. And we'll actually say footer nav, and we will say padding 20 pixels. And that should stay within the box. Yes, it does, but it kind of creates an issue where the footer sits below the bottom of the browser. And that's probably because the bottom 0 is not really accounting for the padding here. And so let me just see what happens if I say -20. Sorry, I meant 20, not -20. And so what's happening here, I know very well what's happening at this point, is the floats, the two floats are collapsing the the footer. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. So what we need to do is give the footer the, we'll do that clearfix trick. Class clearfix. And we're going to select the clearfix down here. And we'll do the clearfix styles, which is clearfix after. And we'll say content, two quotes to say there's no content, empty. It is empty. Display table and clear both. And that should fix our problem, and it doesn't. And I am thinking now that that is because the nav is actually collapsing, not the footer. So all we need to do is just give the nav the class of clearfix, fix our problems. And there we go. The only thing now is that the there's padding on the bottom that we don't need, so we're just going to, the bottom, it's moved up 20 pixels from the bottom. So we're just going to remove that from the footer, and that should fix. Note that breaks it because we need to actually have it be bottom 0. Okay, bottom 0 on the footer. That'll fix it. There we go. So that's basically the Google page. It looks nearly identical. I know there's some padding and a couple extra things that we're missing, but that's the idea. And if you want, feel free to play around, to copy, take this image here, snag this image, take a screenshot or something like that, create one in Photoshop, and use it as a background image and remove the text for the apps. Go ahead and create the button too if you want. And you could change the padding. Looks like there's a border on top of that footer, and we don't have one, and the padding's a little bit big, but it's essentially identical. And yeah, so if you made it this far, this was the longest lecture, or a couple of lectures that we've done so far, but this is a totally practical application of how you would use your HTML5 and CSS. So see you in the next lecture. We're going to be jumping into even more CSS coming up.